evening, church. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Larry Walkemeyer, and I'm married.
And yes, you are. I'm Deb Walkemeyer.
And you're married.
To you.
And
oh, my goodness.
We live together. That's why we're not.
Oh, yeah, we don't social distance.
Yeah, no social distancing in our home or on our devotions. So we're glad that you joined us for devotions. And we actually also work together, don't we?
We do. We work here at the church.
Pastor Deb.
And Pastor Larry.
Yeah, so we're really honored and have been actually in June. It is 29 years for us to be at Light and Life as the pastors here.
Wait a minute.
29 years.
Our anniversary is June 3rd, and I'm like, we've been married way longer than
42 years. June 3rd, we've been married. But to me, it only seems like 29 years, honey.
We're actually just kind of stalling, hoping that people log on. So
yeah,
this is our little banter back and forth.
We're glad you're logged on. And feel free right now to hit that share button and invite somebody else. Text somebody, invite them to listen in just for a few minutes as we talk to you about what God has put on our hearts for tonight. But before I do that, a couple of things I just want to say to you by way of announcements and updates. And the first one is this. This coming Sunday from 10 to 12, we are going to have drive-through communion right here at 5951 Downey at the church property. Yeah. And so we want to invite you, church, to drive through during those 2 hours and receive the communion symbols and a prayer of blessing by one of our ministry staff. We'd love to do that with you. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, that's fine. In fact, at the end of the message, I will lead you in communion online.
So buy your grape juice.
That's right.
Yeah, you can go get your crackers, bread, whatever you want to use for your communion, and you can be ready to receive it.
Yeah, that's right. Prepare for that. But we'd love to see you here if you feel comfortable on Sunday. Also, coming up is a celebration of our high school seniors who graduated. Woo-hoo! And Kimmy, our dynamic student minister, she has planned a great celebration. So if you have a senior, make sure you get a hold of Kimmy. And you can do that through our website or through her email if directly. We'd love to have you do that. And also, book clubs are coming up.
Book clubs are coming up. Please sign up. We are really excited as we are gathering now in virtual community throughout the summer. Once we hear that we can gather in groups of 10 or less, then we will for sure try to gather together. But until then, you can sign up on our website, llcf.org, click men's or women's book club, sign up, and someone will be getting hold of you and getting you signed up in a book club for the summer.
Yeah, and I want to thank you, too, just for your generosity. Thanks for being faithful. We moved everything online, as you know, over 10 weeks ago, and you have continued just to put God first in your finances, and we're being able to help hundreds of people both here and around the world because of that, and able to keep our staff employed. So thank you, church. We love you, and I really appreciate that. Well, this evening, we're going to kick off a devotional series. We're going to be talking about the regathering of the church and the considerations that we as your pastors are praying through as we make that decision. And we're going to give you our 7 considerations, our 7 values or thoughts that we have that we're basing that decision on. This is really important because there's a little poem that goes like this. It says, methods are many, values are few. Methods always change, values never do. And so we don't want to base our decision to regather. We don't use the word reopen because we're open, doing a lot of ministry. But we don't want to make our decision about regathering based on just what is trending politically or a headline of some newspaper, so the latest newscast, or what some other church is doing, some other place. We want to make it based on some values, based on these biblical considerations. And so I've been sharing these with you in writing, but we want to share with you a little further in person on these. And the first one that we want to talk about is love and safety. love and safety, they go together. It's really just one consideration. We call ourselves the people loving place. And so when it comes to regathering, our first and foremost question is, how can we do this with the most love possible for the most number of people possible? And in 1 Corinthians chapter 16, 14, Paul writes to us and says, do everything in love. In this context of love, with this consideration of love. And so that's what we want to do. So Deb's going to share, and then after she shares, I'm going to share a little more. Go ahead, honey.
All right. So let's look at that 1 Corinthians passage. 1 Corinthians 16, 14, Paul tells us do everything in love. And as followers of Christ, we're to be examples of love, living out our faith in that context of love. And Jesus told us in John, as the Father has loved me, so I love you. Now remain in my love. If you keep my commands, you'll remain in my love, just as I've kept my Father's commands and remain in his love. See, love here in the Greek means agape. And so this type of love we're talking about, that we're considering, it's not a familial love. It's not an erotic love. It's not a friendship love. It's a love that's lived at a higher level, because it's a love that you're deciding how you're going to love. You're deciding, I love this person, and because of that, I want to do everything that's going to take them into consideration. And this is the kind of love we want to use as we're making our decisions moving forward. Jesus loved us so much. He actually sacrificed his life for us, even while we were sinners. That's what Scripture tells us. So even in the midst of our badness, Jesus came and loved us. And that is an agape type of love. And so that's what we're considering.
It's really a self-sacrificial love, isn't it? It's sacrificing ourselves for someone else.
It is. And I love John. I actually am preaching on Wednesday night. If you want to join us, I'm going to be preaching about John, the beloved disciple, and all of his writings on love.
It's a great message.
As he learned from Jesus. But John 15, 12 and 13, this is kind of the crux of where we're at here, because it says, my command is this, love each other as I've loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that they lay down their lives for their brothers or sisters. You are my friends if you do what I command. So that sacrificial love, that's a higher level of love.
That's right.
It's a love that's hard. And I want to be honest with you all. I was really bothered when churches chose to regather on Mother's Day. I understand what was happening and their rationale to being able to regather. However, they opened, people got infected with the COVID virus, and then they had to reclose again. And the testimony to the world who don't know Jesus is that the church is hypocritical. Because their questions are, how can we regather if we truly love people and are concerned for their safety? How can we potentially infect others by regathering too soon?
Right. That's good.
So we're concerned, church, about gathering again too quickly. We have a friend here in Long Beach, Wayne Cheney, who leads Antioch Church. And Larry, what did Wayne do recently?
Yeah, he did a survey of African Americans. In fact, he didn't do the survey. He was a part of it, but a friend of his did it, and it wasn't just here in Long Beach. But 3,600 African Americans were surveyed about when would you return to the church, and 21% of them said, we are not coming back to a regathering of the church until there's a vaccine. Now, don't freak out. We're not waiting that long to regather. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that he has a real consideration of how can they serve their population, because if you know, the African American population has been disproportionately
Yes.
impacted
Yeah.
by COVID. And so Pastor Wayne and Maisha's concern is, how can we serve these
Yes.
that are fearful and are most vulnerable? And
Yeah.
that's the right heart. Now, what the answer to the question is, that's going to vary, but that's the right heart that we're talking about.
Yes, and it's that kind of heart that's driven by a love and agape love.
Mhm.
But you also received even a phone call from one of our African American congregants, and
Mhm.
what did he share with you?
Yeah, he said, Pastor, don't be too quick to open. I'm for you regathering the church, but I just need you to know I'm getting so much from online, and I'm fearful. He's over 60,
Yeah.
and I'm fearful that about rejoining you too soon. But I don't want you to misinterpret that, Pastor. And so I just loved his heart, but he sensitized me to how he was feeling, and he's really active in our church.
Yes. So, church, that is our consideration for regathering. It's a scriptural principle where the stronger ones serve the weak. We demonstrate our love by laying our lives down for our brothers and our sisters. And we're going to consider the most vulnerable before we get together again. And as a pastoral staff, you need to trust our hearts that we want to regather, but we're taking this into consideration. Also, there's another piece of this love piece, which is safety. And the grounding verse for that is Romans 15:1, where Paul says, now we are strong. Now we who were strong ought to bear the weaknesses of those without strength and not just please ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And as we've been asked to shelter in place, obviously our awareness level, my awareness level, has been piqued by all these new standards that dictate how do we live safely in community. Distance yourself, wear a mask. If you're sick, don't come out of your home. Wash your hands, a whole bunch. These are common sense principles, but what's happened is that now we're being reminded these are safety principles, and these are things we have to live our lives by. So across the street at the park from our house, huge signs, social distance. I'm driving down the 710 freeway, there's this huge sign that says, wash your hands. And I'm like, are you serious right now? It's not telling me there's an accident on the 405. It's telling me wash my hands.
That's right.
And then of course, wearing masks. It's a new way of life. All of these things are new ways of life, but it's all in light of creating this safe environment. Now, I want to be honest with you. I hate wearing a mask. And when it's hot outside, I hate wearing a mask. And I'm going to be really honest, I am really claustrophobic, and that heat and that mask, they don't blend well for my claustrophobia. So I'm just telling you that I am someone who would prefer not to wear the mask, but because I know it's a safety measure, I'm going to pay attention to Paul's words. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wear the mask because I'm not trying to please myself. I'm trying to pay attention to the weaknesses of those around me.
Yeah.
This current pandemic, it's going to cease and we're going to be able to gather again. But how can we be mindful of the safety of others? And as we determine as a E-team how to regather again, these are some of the things we're taking into consideration. Church, let's be mindful of what was taught in 1 John 3:16 and 19, where John again writes, as far as those who live in Christ, this is what love looks like. It looks like brothers and sisters laying down their lives. And he even goes as far to say, how can you even consider yourself being a Christian if you're not taking into consideration those who are in need and have pity on them? In the meantime, while we're living under this shelter-in-place order, let's begin to demonstrate how we can love others. Let's show up for others. Let's write them notes of encouragement. Let's make phone calls to our friends. Let's gather in community and support one another virtually. How about joining our prayer team? If you want to do that, you can let us know. We want to be there for one another We want to be sensitive to the needs of others and the safety of others. So, church, in the meantime, we want to know how we can serve you. We want to know how we can pray for you. Please fill out the form on our website at llcfd.org and let us know how we can be there for you. And our prayers are with you as we move into a new season.
That's exactly right, Deb. Thank you for sharing that. And this idea of safety is so important to us. And it's going to take a lot to make sure that we as a staff do all we can here on property to make it as safe as possible. And frankly, it's going to take some work and some money to do that kind of sanitation, to have those kind of tools available so that when we begin to regather, and we will, so that we can create a safe environment. That's an act of love and service to you. So we can't just rush in at the first moment that smaller groups can gather. And I'm sure that there are going to be size limitations once we're able to gather. And we're going to observe those very, very carefully because safety is an act of love. And like Deb, I loved your illustration of wearing the mask, because the reason that you're willing to be uncomfortable is not to protect yourself. It's to serve someone else. Because one of the things about this thing is it's asymptomatic for a lot of people. You can have it and not really realize you have it and be infecting a lot of people. And so you can say, I feel great, but to lay your life down means I'll wear a mask anyway, and in order to serve. One of the leaders in our church that has really been sending me articles about regathering, not pressuring me, pushing me in any kind of way, but just keeping me informed from their point of view. They texted me this morning with an idea, and I just thought it was just such a loving idea. I'm not sure if it's practical. It probably won't be what we do, but her idea was this: Pastor, I know that as we regather, how about, because of the space limitations and social distancing, how about we invite those that are loneliest and feeling most isolated?
Yeah, I love that.
Those that are loneliest and feeling most isolated, let's let them come to church first and to regather first. And I thought to myself, that's exactly what we're talking about here.
That's beautiful.
We want to have a heart as the people loving place that says, it's not about how fast we can get back together. We're going to get together again. We love you. We miss you. But we're doing church. We're having church. We're being the church right now. But let's have the heart that says we're going to serve those that are vulnerable, those that are lonely, those that are isolated. And that's the heart of Christ. And so that's the heart we want to have at Light and Life.